I have these friends, Dan and Sheila. They're podcast hosts.
Welcome to Profiling Criminal Minds. I'm Dan.
And I'm Dr. Redmond.
And I can't believe we have to do this again in 2 days.
Yeah, yes. We're not waiting.
We're not waiting to watch this. I mean, you're going to have to wait a week to listen to us talk about it. But I think you'll watch you'll have already watched the last episode. Hopefully. Oh my God.
Oh my God. At the end of this. I did actually call you and say, I did warn you that we were going to need to.
Oh my God. And now you understand why I don't watch it until like 10 hours before we record, right?
Yeah, because it was all I could do not to. In fact, that's one of the reasons why I found something to watch, right?
Yeah.
So I started watching The Mayor of Kingstown.
Just to keep your mind off of the bleakness that is this. And then, oh no, wait, that show's just as, well, not just as bleak. Nothing could be as bleak as this.
No, I
pretty
don't,
bleak.
I don't. Yeah, The Mayor of Kingstown is, as I said, Oz on steroids.
Well, we'll talk about that later. For now, though, we have to focus just on Those Who Kill, a show that is, oh my God, like you can't believe what it's doing, this show. And I understand why why people didn't watch it. I understand why it didn't continue, because who could watch more of this show?
And that's exactly it, because I think what happened when they did, the reason the Swedish thing is going for 3 years is Those Who Kill is the serial killers. It has nothing to do with the lead detectives. They've got their own stories, I'm sure. I mean,
we'll find out. We're gonna find out what they do on the other shows, but this thing is,
and by the way, these 2 episodes, in case you didn't notice, I mean, I looked at it and I said, Andrew Wilder, eh? Okay. The 2 episodes that we just watched were written by Andrew Wilder. I recognized him immediately because he wrote 48 episodes of Criminal Minds.
Yeah.
And because I did all of that database work, right?
Yeah, of course.
His name kept coming up. So
yeah. No, I mean, it's definitely fits into, The Killer at least fits into a Criminal Minds mold, except a much more intense version of what we used to see on Criminal Minds.
Oh, well, this is just, I mean, I almost was going to watch it again today, and I went,
I don't think I have to put myself through that. No,
I'm not putting myself through it because I still have the visual of the last 5 minutes of the last episode we watched.
Oh my God.
And I'm just going, and that stupid ball.
Yep, ball's back, because the ball is very important to his, whatever you want to call it, his process, his MO. Oh my God.
Or whatever.
Yep.
I'm just like.
So at the end of the last episode, she calls her mother. Right, Chloe Sevigny calls her Kathy Baker.
Oh, the last episode we watched,
yes,
not the one
obviously. I'm starting to talk about the show, not just be free-formed freaking out. In the end of the last episode, she calls her mother and says, we need to talk about Bruce Davison, right? Because
we need to talk
he
about
has been told, right? She has been told, right, by, oh, God, I'm sorry, I'm so sad about James D'Arcy in these episodes. But yes, she's been told by James D'Arcy that Kathy Baker definitely knew, right? 100% definitely knew. And we're like, oh my God, is Kathy Baker going to kill Bruce Davison? No, quite the opposite. Because we immediately cut to, she quote unquote fell down the stairs. Yep, he pushed her down a staircase. She confronted him, and he pushed her down a staircase. And
I think yes.
Well, no, I mean, I think that's fairly obvious. Like,
no,
it's not subtle.
Finally, no, I was just going to say her guilt finally got the better of
absolutely.
her, and she had to talk to her daughter because, and there was no way she was talking. So, and And he faked entirely the reasons why she fell down the stairs.
Oh yeah, you don't have to fake. You just say it. You've successfully murdered your wife. You can just say whatever you want. There's no one to testify against you.
Nope.
Oh,
well, she's in a deep coma.
She's in a deep coma because it was a nasty fall down the stairs. And
well,
who the hell knows?
High stairs.
You know. Yeah, they
How
are high
he beat
stairs.
her up before that.
Exactly. Like he may have beaten her up. There's every reason to believe he beat her up before that. There's no reason to think he wouldn't.
When you
have.
look at her,
oh yeah, her face is all smashed.
But because he's a judge, nobody even thinks
Who
about
would
it. They're
question
not
it for
going
a
to.
Second.
He says, this is what happened and this is what happened. She was standing at the top of the stairs and all of a sudden this, and I couldn't get to her in time and she fell down the stairs.
Oh my God. Yeah.
And they are long,
he says
hard
that
stairs.
She froze up, right?
Yeah.
Again, because he describes what a stroke looks like.
Yep.
And he says she froze up. Yeah, massive stroke. And she froze up. And before he could get to her, she fell down the stairs. So that explains the brain damage she has no doubt suffered from. Oh,
unless they did an autopsy, and he's a judge, so
why would they?
Judge, yeah. Why would they do an autopsy?
Why would they do an autopsy? Why would they not believe this, pillar of the community?
It was just, she gets the call when she's at work, and she goes into the hospital.
Yep.
And she sees him, and he's crying, and he's miserable, and it's a stressor, and he can't pull the plug. Well, no, not right now.
Not pulling it. That comes later.
But, comes later. But he's a mess. And she just kind of looks and she can't say anything.
Mm-hmm.
And so she leaves, goes back to work.
Oh, my God.
And her boss wants to sends her home.
Yep.
And, and she says, no, I have to work. And then she does something stupid and he looks at her and she says, okay, I'll go home, but can I come back tomorrow morning?
Yeah.
And he said yes. And then she comes back the next morning and he gives her what is one of those cases where, well, it might be suicide. It might be an accidental fall. It might be this.
Yeah. But
and then we get our killer of the week.
But we'd already started. The very first thing we saw is the killer of the week. I wanted to fast forward to the follow-up. I know. The most loathsome killer we've had.
This was just unbearable.
It is. It is unbearable.
He is sound.
No, I get it. I 100% get it. So, but before we get to that, we see the killer off in the woods, and
yes,
he goes to a very specific part of the woods.
Yes,
this is the key part. He goes to a very specific part of the woods, and he lays down and he drinks a glass of wine to remember this woman who he has a picture of, and of course, because this show is bleak as hell, the picture's of a woman, bound and gagged. Right? It's just her face and she's got a gag over her mouth. Because he's a murderer and he's reminiscing about his first victim. And it's at that moment we realize, oh my God, they're doing Frank. / the Toolbox Killer. Which is who Frank was based on. Right. I mean, this guy's got a semi-trailer instead of an RV, but it's the exact same situation. He has a room for...
Well, yes, we don't find that out until the second episode.
Well, no, but we're not being coy about this. No, but it's like they're doing Frank, and oh my God, are they doing Frank?
On steroids.
Whoa, on steroids, because that's what this show is, because this show can go farther and be bleaker than Criminal Minds ever would. And we'll talk about that as we get into the killer. But the important part is he's probably from here. He's probably from here originally, and his original victim, we don't find out any of the details yet. No. And his first victim, the one he's still obsessed with, the one that all of the subsequent women he kills look like that woman, right?
Yeah.
All of them.
Puts roses on her grave.
Exactly. Well, we don't know that it's probably her grave. It's a piece of rock out in a forest. So maybe it's her grave, maybe it's representing her, who knows? Like, we don't have any of the details yet, but we know that the forest is important to him.
I just assumed it
Oh, no,
was
and that's a reasonable thing to assume. But we know the forest is important to him,
there.
right? Because of stuff that will happen later. We know the forest is important to him. And yes, she's definitely buried out there. I agree with you, but we just see him like on this rock. And hell, maybe she's under the rock. I don't know. We don't have any information.
No, we have no information actually, and we have really no information about who and what she is. Like what is, except that she was bound.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
gagged. We assume she was bound because you only see the headshot.
Exactly. We only see the headshot, but I mean, come
on. So that's how it opens. And then, and
then we cut to this rave. And at this rave, a guy absolutely freaks out and leaps out a window.
Yes.
And this is the job she's been sent out on. Hey, figure out this guy. And as she says, this isn't a case. Like, this isn't a murder. And he's like, I could also have you sitting here and your assignment would be to sit at your desk until the hospital calls you.
Yeah.
Do you want to work or do you not want to work?
Yeah. And besides, it might turn into a homicide.
Exactly. Maybe you'll get lucky. Wink.
Which she often does.
Almost always, in fact. I've watched the show.
Yes. Now, in all probability, just to end this particular guy who jumped out the window, it is a critical thing that happened, but he probably did just jump out.
Oh, no, he just jumped out the window. He just freaked out and jumped out the window at the rave. And we do find out why. Essentially, why he would panic to the point that he would jump out of a window, right? We do actually get a firm answer on that. And I mean, it's an airtight episode, basically. Yeah. Like, it is bleak and unbelievably horrible to watch, but it's an airtight episode, just like structure-wise and everything being explained.
And that's why they had Wilder, I guess, do both episodes.
Oh, yeah. So they can perfectly go together.
Yeah. And they do go perfectly together. And it is just unrelenting one more time.
Yeah.
But she's, so they go off and her.
Before they go to the crime scene, we cut to James Darcy, and this is the key part.
Oh, yes.
We cut to in his classroom, and he's lecturing about this killer that he helped catch, who he wrote about in a book. And he talked about how this, because it's talking about whether killers can feel remorse.
Feel guilt or remorse.
And so he talks about this guy who was racked by remorse, who killed like a dozen women or something. Yes. But he was racked by remorse and he hangs on the line. He just realizes what he just said. He's like, he couldn't sleep because he was so haunted by the horrible things he did. And it's at that moment that he's like, oh no.
Oh no. And he walks out of his
class.
And it just walks.
Oh.
No, you can't do that in post-traumatic. Because
this is a PhD level class. He can't just like
walk out.
Oh, but then
he does
before he can figure out what's happening, because Chloe Sevigny finds him in his office as he's going through his files to talk about the fact that her mother has just been murdered.
Yes. Right? Well, she doesn't even say that.
Say it. No.
She never says it. She says my mother took a fall down the stairs. She never once says her mother was murdered.
But she does bring up that she felt the need to go to her mother based on James Darcy saying her mother definitely knew, and talks about how she called her and she left a message. And when she got the phone call last night, she was expecting that it was her mother calling back to talk. And really it was my mother had gone down the stairs. And I think James Darcy is putting two and two together over what must have happened. Like, I think
sure.
Yeah. He's smart enough to know what must have happened.
As we all are by this point, because we're accepting that he is an evil man.
Yeah, we know that Bruce Davison is a monster.
Yes.
Yeah, I think we have all accepted that so far. Like, as conflicted as conflicted as he has been presented, we know that this man is a monster. And as as unreliable a narrator as she tends to be, there is no question that she's right about this, and that he is a monster, and he killed her brother.
And the key is the pig.
Yeah, the pig, exactly. He kept a trophy, and that's why James Darcy is sure, right?
Yes.
Is the pig as a trophy, and the fact that that's why he's also certain, like, the mother cannot live in this house and not know.
Yeah.
Oh,
well,
God.
it's the going back to prodigal son.
Yeah, exactly, right? How much did this mother know, right? How much, it's, God, I really liked Prodigal Son. It's weird how this show is so rough, right?
Yeah.
But it's like we keep fantasizing about the safer serial killer shows we like to watch.
Well, because the character in Prodigal Son, yes, is more, first of all, the serial killer is kind of weirdly engaging.
Yeah, he really is.
And he kills adults, not children.
That helps.
Seriously.
No,
right?
You're right. I agree.
It is, and it had Lou Diamond Phillips. So,
that goes a long way.
that goes a long way to making it palatable for us.
To make it easy to watch.
Yeah. So let's get back to this
right,
show
because they
go
to the crime scene. They go to the crime scene, right? And they see where the guy went out the window, and she and her partner talk about, just like, is this really a case?
And
I understand it. Yeah.
The guy says he probably jumped, and she says, "Well, yeah, probably, but I think we're going to do some."
Might as well do the blood work, see what happened.
The blood work.
Maybe somebody dosed him. Who the hell knows, right? There's no reason not to do our jobs, just because we're cops doesn't mean we get to take the day off like most cops do.
Well, and it's partly because Chloe Sevigny, because she needs to keep her mind going.
Oh, absolutely.
She needs to have something.
Well, and you can make the argument that's like, no matter what that autopsy had turned up, she would have found a way to turn it into a case.
Yeah.
I think you can make that argument better. All right.
Because, she can't focus. She can't do anything about her mother right now. She can't do anything about her stepfather right now.
No,
so
she is trapped. She is trapped. And so she needs something to occupy her mind that isn't her getting drunk and cutting herself.
Mm-hmm.
And, oh my God. All right. And here's where we find out what's been going on this whole time. Because James Darcy goes to see the guy he was lecturing about, the serial killer. And starts talking about this one victim that they found in the woods who was buried in the woods, had wild animals not dug up her body. We would never even identified her as one of your victims. But here's the thing. She had different hair color than normal.
Yeah.
And
than all the ones that he
did. And you confessed to it, but I don't think you did it. Mm-hmm. And the thing is, the killer knows exactly why James Darcy has come to see him. 100% knows exactly why he has come to see him. And the answer is, he's got a postcard too.
Yep. That says exactly
this
the same
one is from
thing.
Oklahoma.
Yeah.
It was St. Louis. James Darcy's was from St. Louis. The serial killer's is from Oklahoma. But as you
Oklahoma
say,
City.
It says exactly the same thing.
I sleep very
just
well.
Fine. I sleep just fine. Oh my God. And so now James Darcy knows there's another killer running around. And this guy has been convicted of a crime he didn't commit because the cops were just happy to tap another one. And it's essentially, they're not comparing it directly to this, but the thing I would compare it to is the Henry Lee Lucas Syria thing, where he's America's most prolific serial killer in history because every cop within an 8-mile radius just showed up and said, "Hey, Henry, do you want to say you killed this person too?"
Yes.
And he's like, "Will you buy me a burger?" Then yeah, I'll say I killed your person too. The true story of why Henry Lee Lucas is thought of as America's worst serial killer.
Well, and you in some ways, okay, yeah, fine. But he, it was always strange. And of course, Darcy just goes and says, there's a problem here.
Yep.
Because, he didn't do it.
Yeah.
That's why he has never been able to tell us where the body is.
Yeah.
Because he did with everybody else.
Mm-hmm. I mean, he can't give us, and it's like he
because-
was very
they
clear.
They couldn't have found.
No, they did find the body. No, they did find the body, and that's how they tagged it on him. It was dug up. It was dug up in those same woods that guy is obsessed with. Yes, they found the body because it was dug up by animals. And you can make you could actually make the statement that first woman's definitely under that giant piece of stone, because that's why you put a giant piece of stone down, to keep animals from digging up bodies. You know, that's I'm not saying the original reason of headstones, but it's like you bury people under a pile of rocks, to mark the body, but more importantly, because scavengers can't move a big pile of rocks.
And they can't dig 6 feet under.
Exactly. And you can't dig 6 feet in the forest because there's roots everywhere. Like, you physically can't get 6 feet down in the forest because it's all rocks and roots. That's why generally old farmlands are what get turned into cemeteries, because all the rocks have been removed over like 50 or 75 years. And so you put a body in the ground and then you cover it with as many rocks as you can, because the, little coyotes and whatever can't dig through that. And as you say, 6 feet down is the even better reason. Much better way to do it, because smells, and I mean, what it really means is not just that you can't dig 6 feet down, but smells don't penetrate through 6 feet of dirt, and the smells are what attract the animals. The smells of decomposition. But anyway, so yes. Now that I say that out loud, yeah, you're right. There probably is a woman under that big piece of stone. I think there's a good chance that you're right about that.
And there had to be just one, like this woman had to be, for whatever reason, they do figure out, I'll just throw this in, that for whatever reason, he couldn't take time burying this particular woman.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's why she was only a few feet underground, and he didn't have time to put the rocks on and stuff like that. Not that they discussed that, but that's basically why this woman was found.
Yep.
And that is attributed to the killer. Well, there it is. This guy sends it, and then Darcy, goes back.
And he starts looking over all of it. And meanwhile, her good friend, Chloe Sevigny's good friend, the ME, has a report that there's some unbelievably weird kind of ecstasy in this guy's system.
Yeah, it's been bonded.
Yeah, it is ecstasy that essentially goes right through the blood-brain barrier to make you feel it that much more intensely. And so whatever made this guy feel paranoid, he was in no way, shape, or form in control of his feelings. So it's that much more intense, all of the feelings he's experiencing. Yes. And that's what made him so paranoid that he had to jump out the window, because his paranoia, whatever caused it, got cranked up to 11.
Yes.
That's why he jumped out the window. Yeah. And they're like, and she's like, I haven't seen anything like this before, but you know who might have? Your ex-boyfriend, Desmond Harrington. And it's like, yes! I was so happy to see that it was Desmond Harrington. I love Desmond Harrington. Big fan of Desmond Harrington.
The ex-boyfriend who's in charge of
Narco.
The drug.
Yeah.
Narco.
Yeah, who runs the narco. Now that his previous boss is retired, he's running the place.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, all right. And meanwhile, before she goes to see Desmond Harrington, again, clockwork episode with huge plot stuff character and plot stuff coming in every scene. Before she goes to see Desmond Harrington, James D'Arcy gets fired for abandoning his class.
Well, it wasn't the first time.
Well, no, I mean,
that was the problem.
40% of his students have dropped his classes in the past 6 months because he's constantly canceling classes to go work, police cases. He's not doing his job. And James D'Arcy's like, essentially says this wouldn't be happening if I had tenure. And I'm like, well, yeah, that's what tenure means, dummy.
And that's what tenure.
This is also the reason you didn't get. Yeah, but this is what do you call it? The reason you don't have tenure is because you pull this kind of stuff, because you're not a good member of the faculty community, because you're not going to dinner parties and kissing up and publishing books every 18 months.
Well, no, that's it. In this case, what I would say is the predominant, because the dean of his faculty likes him.
Yeah. And he's like,
And
if you ever write another book, I'm sure I'll like that too. And the fact that he's like, if is the point. If he were publishing and he were a celebrity author and he were drawing students to the program, eccentricity could be forgiven. But he's not drawing students to the program and he's not publishing. So his eccentricities can't be accepted. And that's why he doesn't have tenure.
Yeah. Well, but he's a part-time. He's just like I am. You work part-time, but I have the biggest classes in my discipline.
That's a whole other conversation.
Yeah. Well, no, it's just because I never walk out of my class.
Well, yeah, that's part of it. And you're always there for your students, obviously.
Yeah. And I'm always there for my students. Plus, I get all of these students who have to do humanities courses.
Yeah, there's a required humanities course, and you're the teacher whose course they want to take. Yeah.
Well, because I'm out of sync with the majors. Yeah. Like what I teach is not part of the majors. Yeah. So
you always pick up the people doing some completely random degree, and they need a humanities course, so they come and they take yours.
Yeah.
Or both of yours.
Craft course.
Yeah, obviously.
But I don't teach that one. But that's, there are a couple of these things, what happens. And of course, he's a specialist.
Yeah.
And so if he had been attending his classes and teaching his students and meeting with his students like he was supposed to, it's not a question. He would never have lost his job because he is an authority.
Absolutely. But my point is that even if he were this eccentric, if he was publishing, he could get away with it.
If he were, no. Only, number one, if he became David Rossi, yes, he'd get away with it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Okay, because David Rossi became, what's his face?
Yeah.
Is based on what's his face. Mm-hmm. And, but the other thing is David Rossi doesn't have the discipline to teach either.
No, he really doesn't.
Whereas this guy probably did have the discipline to teach up until, because it's only the 6 months.
Yeah, it's only the past 6 months.
Everything he's been teaching there for quite a while.
Oh, yeah.
After he got out of the hospital, he had told his wife he wasn't going to do any of these things again. And so he was teaching, and teaching was fine. And it was probably very lucrative.
Oh,
that's the big problem, because he did have this book and he was a specialist and all the rest of it. So he's, he screwed it up when he started working with the police. We have been watching him
screw up his life.
8 episodes, starting to screw up his life again, because he's in the field. He cannot be in the field anymore.
No.
And that losing the job is just the icing on the cake almost.
Yeah, it's showing us like it is getting him to the point that he was always getting to, right?
That he was going to, and now we see how bad it really is.
Yeah.
That he can't even keep the job that is supplying him and his wife and his child and his unborn child.
Yeah. Yeah, that is supporting them.
Yeah.
I know, it's bad. He is in a really bad position, and by the end of this episode, he is in, there's only one person in there's only 2 people in worse shape than he is. I guess 3, and all the victims. Okay, there's actually a lot of people on the show worse off than James D'Arcy is at the end of this episode. But that's not to say James D'Arcy isn't in a really rough place at the end of this episode.
No, he's in a rough place, and Chloe's not helping.
Nope.
Nobody is helping. His wife is trying, but he's gone down the road, and that's the problem. And this episode is not going to help. Like let's get back to I don't know, these 2 episodes again for me blended together.
Yeah. Oh, they have to.
Now do we see what the serial killer does?
First, we go to check in with Desmond Harrington.
Yes, the guy who's running narcotics.
Who says, my old boss, I think, would know about this. I don't know about this, but I'm pretty sure my old boss would know about this.
In fact, he didn't leave because it was time to retire. He left because he became obsessed.
Yeah.
And so wasn't it nice to see LaRoche?
Oh my God! Oh, LaRoche from The Mentalist. So perfect.
Oh, it was perfect. He's lost a little weight.
Yep. Looking good. But
Looking
let's not forget LaRoche and star of Touching Evil US.
Yes. Yes.
You know? One of our favorites. Oh my God. Yeah, and it's like, it's so weird to see this get, it's like tag in to Touching Evil US, because that is the show that we use as like the closest thing to this that America has done.
Yes.
Where it's just, on one level, a straight serial killer show, but it's also so much more than that.
Yes.
Because that's the thing. Millennium is, as we just finished watching all of Millennium, I think it's fair to say, Millennium is its own thing.
Yes, it is unique. It
is unique. It is not a serial killer show in the vein of Criminal Minds, right? And Cracker and Touching Evil and all of that. Like, so it's unfair to compare any other serial killer show, right?
To Millennium.
Yeah. But we can compare this show to Touching Evil. We can say that Touching Evil is like one of the best things that America has done of a straight Killer of the Week serial killer show. And by the end of this, we're going to be saying that Those Who Kill is a better Touching Evil.
Oh, yes, but it only lasted 10 episodes.
Yeah, and Touching Evil only had 13. Like, that's what America does to these shows that are just way too good at being about serial killers. And now we finally get to the scene. Where, and the thing is, you may wonder, right? Okay, here's something about Frank. Because he tells us, right, that the mechanics of being a serial killer have started to bore him, in a sense. Right? He just wants the one time he felt something, which was this woman who wasn't afraid when she looked at him.
Yeah.
Right? And it's like, that's the last time I remember feeling something. And this killer, while not exactly the same by any means, does something incredibly interesting in that...
Jeez.
No, I'll say it. I don't know that he even remembers getting anything out of this.
Yes. You're right. Okay, I see where you're going with that.
He kills these people in these unbelievably horrific ways. But it has now become systematized to the point where he doesn't even enjoy doing it anymore.
Yeah.
Because he's got a record, and that's the thing that's so horrifying about this. He has a recorder explaining all the stuff he's doing.
Yeah.
He's like, I have to do this thing. I have to brutally torture and rape you, and I need your husband to watch it because that's who I'm really angry at. Husband, and as he says in there, husband or boyfriend.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't want to have to go back and explain this twice or have two versions of the video for people to listen to.
Oh,
so he has the audio say husband or boyfriend. Because when I was watching it the first time, I'm like, is this artistic? And we're hearing what he's saying to them while watching him doing the stuff, and it's supposed to be disordered time. No, it's a recording.
No, as I told you,
it's one of the most horrific things I've seen in this, because it's like, it's a better version of expressing what they were trying to do with Frank.
Yeah.
Of a guy who's not even into it anymore, but he keeps doing it because it's who he is.
Yes.
Like, I don't know that this guy's even enjoying the rape and torture and cutting off the husband's fingers whenever he closes his eyes, right?
Oh.
I know. Like, I don't even know that he's... Yeah.
And playing disco.
Well, not disco. It's house music. Because he does raves. Yeah.
It's the rave.
It's called house music.
Okay.
Techno or house music. Techno. Yes. Techno is now called house music. Okay. I know there's actually slight differences, but we old people think of it as techno, but it's house music.
It is tech. It is, yes. Yeah. It is. Well, but listening to what he's doing and how he's playing it, it's techno.
It is techno.
And he has all of the, like, it's like he's stuck in the freaking early 90s, late 80s, early 90s. And he's got the glowing paint.
Yeah,
you know,
he's got the glowing paint. Yeah, he's
And
very
he
much
has
a product
all of
of
the-
mid to late 90s rave culture. You're absolutely right.
Yes,
That is where this started for him, and it is now 15 years later, and he is still living there. That's still where his head is. You're absolutely right in reading it that way.
Oh, and it was just, as I said, I just turned off the sound.
No, I get it.
initially. By the time we're watching this, a third or a fourth.
Yeah.
I just, no, I just close my eyes.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to take my fingers off if I close my eyes because I can't tolerate it.
Yeah.
It was, and then you have to go back periodically and look at some things because just in case you missed. Anyway, so we've got this serial killer, and then we've just got this rave guy. So what's happening is that the drug guy says, oh, well, you know, we should go see him because maybe he looks at the drug. He looks at the pattern, the drug thing, and he says, if anybody's going to know about it,
they go and they see LaRoche, and he explains that there's this guy called the Space Cowboy.
He called him Space Cowboy,
who travels the country selling this incredibly high potency ecstasy, and he travels on a circuit between these cities, and that circuit repeats every 18 months.
19.
18. But it doesn't matter. Like, the number of months doesn't matter.
He goes from every 19 months he
circles back.
He circles back and he's got a list of towns.
The towns
this drug shows up in these towns every 19 months. Yeah. It is, he said,
like clockwork, he is driving a route.
Yes, he's driving, and it is just
and he spends
horrendous.
A specific amount of time, and these drugs always show up, and there's a new load of the drugs in each of these cities every 18 or 19 months because he sticks to this exact pattern.
Disciplined is what LaRoche calls
Exactly.
it.
He is disciplined.
Highly disciplined. He said, I've never seen it.
And then she gets back to base with this information about the drug because they're just thinking, oh, we're going to catch an incredibly dangerous drug user. And by the way, I know we didn't say it yet, but it's worth noting that what you're supposed to have realized is, oh my God, he's giving his victims this ecstasy that make you incapable of turning off feelings so that their torment is so that they can't disassociate from their torment.
No, they can't disassociate and they can't, and he doesn't, they feel everything.
Exactly. They feel everything more intensely than they've ever felt anything because that's what the drug does. So yeah, they never say he's drugging them with that, but he is drugging them with that. And that's the unstated part of this horrific episode. So she goes back to home base and James D'Arcy is waiting for her, wanting to warn her about this extra serial killer who's out there. Right? This new serial killer he's discovered because he didn't tell anybody about the letter when he got the letter.
The postcard.
Yeah, postcard, not letter. He didn't tell anybody about the postcard. And she looks at the two cities the postcard is from.
Yeah.
And she has got LaRoche's map.
Yep.
And she realizes St. Louis and Oklahoma City are two of those cities. And that the distance between because the postmark says when they were sent, the distance between them being sent is just like the amount of time that always passes between the Space Cowboy being in those two cities. And she's like, oh my God, I think your serial killer is the guy making this drug.
Yes. And, she shows, and it is.
Whoa.
So they start looking.
I mean, I know we knew this was coming, but the way it plays is so beautiful.
Yeah. And then she says, okay, what we're going to have to do is go look. Yeah. Well, first of all, the boss comes in and says, we're not talking serial killer here.
Yeah. Because if we say serial killer, the FBI will come in and they will make such a mess that we're not going to catch him.
Yeah. He's in town right now. Yeah. So obviously we're going to look for a couple that's been missing. They don't know it's a couple yet.
They have to, no, they don't know it's a couple yet, but they have to look for missing people in all of those cities.
And also in all of these other cities, say, go look.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because they don't know if he's kidnapped anyone yet in this city.
Yet this time. But what happens is they find on this 19-month schedule, they find missing couples.
Mm-hmm.
They don't find just the missing women. And the men have most often been found.
Yeah.
The women haven't been found. Except for that one.
Mm-hmm. Who got attributed to somebody else.
Yes. And that's when they start talking about, well, why was this one found? Well, probably it was. Yeah,
it was just luck.
It was accidental. It was bad luck. Probably somebody came by. He didn't have time to do his usual.
Bury her all the way, or however it is he does things. Because we don't know how he does things.
No. And so they're sitting there with this map, and then we've got the 2 postcards, and it is the boss. Like, James D'Arcy is completely out of it in terms of understanding what this means.
Yep.
Because, our cop just says to him, but you have to go away. You have to go into, because he knows where you live. He mailed it to your house. You, your wife.
You all have to go into hiding right now.
And then he says, but I can't go into hiding because if I go into hiding, he's going to know.
Yeah. He's going to know we're on to him.
Yes. So
if he's surveilling me, and that's the thing, he's like, if he's surveilling me and I go into hiding, then he knows we're on to him and he'll run. And he's right. But this means James D'Arcy has to tell his wife that you're getting out of the, out of Dodge right now.
Yeah. And, so the wife looks at him, and she's the one that says, and this is in the first episode.
It is in the first episode.
She said, have you figured out why now? It's been 7 years since you wrote that book. Have you figured out? Why is
he now?
Why now? She said, because I have. Mm-hmm. And he says, tell me. And she says, no, you'll figure it out.
Yeah.
And he does in the next
episode. So then Bruce Davison and Chloe Sevigny, him talking about their relationship. His relationship with the wife and how he can't bear to lose her, and essentially emotionally manipulating Chloe Sevigny into pulling the plug.
Yes, he can't pull the plug. He isn't brave enough. He isn't. And she just,
what a monster.
She does. It's amazing how controlled she is.
Yeah, I know.
And she says, for whatever reason, whatever happened afterwards, because we don't see much.
Yeah.
Something has changed since D'Arcy said, yes, he lied to us and your mother knew.
Yeah.
And something has changed, and she's there, and she can she's going to be the one that makes the decision with the doctor. She talks to the doctor, and then she sits with her mother because the doctor explains how long, and she covers her mother with this special blanket, and she lies down, and she said, I really needed to talk to you, but I guess now I'm going to talk to you. And then she says, I forgive you, because what else are you going to do? As her mother is dying, because they've given her, of course, an extreme dose of, not an extreme, but they've put in the dose of morphine.
Yeah, morphine.
Right, that will just stop her heart.
Yeah.
And Chloe doesn't even ask for an autopsy, nothing. She's giving nothing away.
No, she's not. She's not going to let her suspicion be out there.
No.
So, and of course the killer says it's time for just he and the wife to have their private moment. So he kills the husband, and that's where we end the episode.
Yeah. Oh, it was just...
And then the next episode shows cuts between him going to cut up the body and the funeral.
Yes.
And at the funeral, right, Chloe Sevigny cannot listen to the eulogy that Bruce Davison is giving, so she leaves, and James D'Arcy goes to talk to her. And we hear about the concept of forgiveness. Jesus. Oh my God. It's so horrific.
Oh, and she says he did it. He killed my brother and my mother. No.
Meanwhile, we see the killer packing body parts into cellulose. What do you call it? I was going to say cellulose, but it's like packing all the body parts into cardboard tubes.
Yeah.
And he does this specifically so that he can throw them down the drain, and then the sewer will carry all of these tubes all over the city, and then the cardboard will disintegrate, and the bits of bones and flesh will just sit in a sewer somewhere. It's an amazing way of getting rid of bodies. He's come up with quite a solution. But Chloe's partner, while she's at the funeral, is down in the sewers looking for pieces of dude, because you have to search everywhere.
Yeah, and so he finds a piece of metal that doesn't disintegrate, and it has a serial number on it,
in the guy's spine, and then and so they've definitely got the paired victims down.
Yeah,
but at the wake after the funeral, guess who Chloe Sevigny runs into?
Well,
the little
the
brother,
boy, the mother.
Yes.
The one that looks like her brother.
Looks uncannily like her brother.
Like her brother.
Yeah. And is his latest, friend in the Big Brother program.
He's in the Big Brother program. And
of course he is.
I tell you, I would never have given you guys a Big Brother because there were so many things I knew about the Big Brother program that I won't talk about because
I know we're not looking to get sued here. Let's just move on.
This is in my hometown. Jesus
I know.
Christ.
Yeah.
Anyway,
oh my God.
The horror of all these things. And I watch them and I'm going, and if you guys think this is all fiction, give yourself a break now.
I know. Yeah. Chloe comes back. She's definitely going to keep working on the case. Her boss, understandably tries to get her to see some sanity, but she is adamant that she's going to stay. And, we'll see what that results in soon enough. Meanwhile, the killer gets ready to kill the woman. This is the time he needed alone with her, and this is part of whatever the original murder was, to quote-unquote break up with her. He has to break up with this woman. Oh, and guess what? Then we cut in. For the first time in I don't know how long, we check in on a character. Do you know how rare it is in this show that we see another character without seeing, Chloe or James in that scene? Basically almost never happens. But the boss and Chloe's partner go for a drink at a bar because Chloe's partner reveals that a restraining order has been filed against Chloe by her paramour. And he's got someone down at a friend of his who's down at the clerk's office has sent him a copy of it before it's been filed and says maybe, and again, just to let you know the casual corruption the cops live in. Someone at the county courthouse saw a cop's name on the thing and knows that cop's partner. So the friend set that aside until the cops had a chance to, deal with it.
Yes. And so he brings it to the boss. Yes. The two of them are sitting in a restaurant and he said, look, this hasn't been filed yet. And I don't know what to do about it. And it's funny because he talks about how Chloe is a better police detective than him.
Is. Yeah.
And it's interesting because his boss then, the captain, who is now on promotion rise.
Yep.
But the captain says, okay, well, what do you want me to do with this? Do you want me to break you up as partners? And he said, no, nothing. He said, I'm bringing it to you so you can do something about it.
Yeah. Because I'm not in a position to do something about this.
I can't do anything about it. Yeah. And so we see then the captain will just finish this part. He goes and he talks to the guy in the bar.
Yeah.
And explains to him that, if he does this, then all the other cops are going to be really pissed off at him. And does he really want that? He can assure him that Chloe will never come anywhere near him or his family. And there was one little thing that was wrong in the order.
Yeah.
Is that he has 3 children.
Oh.
If you go back and look, there's 2 children and there's a baby.
Oh,
I think.
okay.
But
yeah,
anyway,
I think you're right. And they only say 2 this time.
Yeah. Well, there are only 2 written down. It doesn't say down. 2, like, because I kept going back to see if I could read it. And
that's an easy mistake to make, though. Like that's,
yes.
I wouldn't yell at them too much about that one.
The baby is not part of it, really.
Yeah.
You know?
No one really considers babies part of a family. I said, based on nothing. I don't know what I'm basing that on.
No, but he doesn't think that the baby would be in danger.
Exactly. I know, but the key part, and this is what he thinks of Chloe, and it is like, is this, because it's this wonderful layers the show is working on, because you're forced to ask, is this something he thinks, or is this just something he's saying to scare this guy off? Because what he says is, look, here's the position. This woman, was obsessed with you, but that's because she was having problems at work. And now she's focused. She's working again. What do you think is going to happen if you get her fired and she has nothing to do all day except obsess about you?
Yes, that was another point. Yes.
What is the outcome going to be for you, do you think?
Yeah. And he goes, okay. And he pulls it.
Yeah. And he lets it go.
And Chloe has never, ever learned about it.
Yeah, and they kept this from her, right? That's the thing. Like, they have insulated her from her own mistakes and bad habits.
And thank God, because...
Well, you say thank God, but, we'll get there.
Well, I don't... No, in the sense that she would be perfectly capable of going and banging on this guy's door.
I know.
How dare he do this?
I know.
That's what they're stopping her from doing. Okay, I'm not saying that her other obsessions are not going to come
but we'll talk about it we'll talk about what happens in a minute.
Geez.
All right, so, but it's nice. First off, I'm not saying he was cast as a reference to, to Touching Evil, because I don't know that anybody remembers Touching Evil, but it is nice that the part that LaRoche played, right, was crazy guy in a room with a giant web of conspiracy that he was trying to figure out.
Yeah.
I did like that it was very much on brand for him. All right. And speaking of giant webs of conspiracy you're trying to figure out, it's James D'Arcy, who has put up everything about the case. About the Urquhart, that's the guy who's the fake killer, who's the killer who confessed even though he didn't do it, case. He's put it all on the wall, and he's going through it trying to figure out while the cop is sleeping in the living room couch.
Yes.
While the older cop is sleeping in the living room couch. And finally, James D'Arcy does figure it out.
He says, oh.
And he's looking at this newspaper report about them catching the coffin killer months ago. And he's right there.
Yep.
Oh.
And it's
a picture of him
fault.
and his name. Yep. He's in the newspapers, and he's like, the killer saw a newspaper report, and it made him go and get James D'Arcy's book. Because James D'Arcy is a serial killer, a guy hunting serial killers in his hometown, and the press are covering him. So he gets curious about him, and he reads the book, and he realizes, oh, this is the guy who let somebody else be charged with one of my crimes. And he thinks he knows me?
Yeah.
He thinks he knows what serial killers are? And so he can't help but reach out, because,
and say, I sleep very well at night.
Yeah. No, I sleep just fine. I sleep just fine. And this is the key part. Oh my God. This is fantastic. The James D'Arcy rushes out when he realizes how he's being targeted. He rushes out and he digs something up from his backyard.
Yep.
And
you wonder initially because it's a tube, just like the
killers. But then we find out, no, it's a shotgun.
Yeah, he's got a sawed-off shotgun
in the pit. And so then, just as he's for the shotgun, Chloe rushes in and he's like, is my father going to molest this boy? And he's like, I can't tell you that. And she's like, I've read your books. I've listened to you talking. Stressors make these guys act out. Is losing his wife, maybe killing his wife, going to drive him to, does it affect pedophiles the same way that it does serial killers?
And James D'Arcy doesn't want to say yes, but is forced to say yes.
Yeah, because he's not going to lie to her.
It's true. He's not.
It is true. Yeah. Well, and it's important to say that it's important to always ment out that serial rapists and pedophiles are exactly the same as serial killers. Serial killers, it's a sexual drive, except their fetish is killing. But and that is why they gave up the whole ridiculous organized, disorganized nonsense. Yes. And now to profile serial killers, they use the scale of the 4 types that they developed for serial rapists. Because rapists and serial killers are the exact same kind of criminal.
If only people would realize that when they're writing other crap.
I know. Yeah.
Never mind.
Rapists are the exact same kind of, rapists and pedophiles are the exact same kind of criminals as serial killers. They just don't kill people. But psychologically, it's exactly the same drive working exactly the same way.
Yes. And if pedophiles kill,
then we just call them serial killers and we take them more seriously.
Child serial killers.
But had you been taking them seriously back when they were just rapists, maybe we'd have fewer serial killers. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, well, I agree with you.
Yeah.
As I'm trying to write a section on rape culture.
I know. But it's harder to talk about, and so people don't want to talk about it.
No, nobody wants to talk. Nobody wants to admit that there is this problem, except for Criminal Minds last episode.
I know.
Episode 4.
Yep.
I mean, I didn't. Yeah. So go on. Let's move on.
Here's where it gets quote unquote good. So what's important to note here, right, is I'm very excited about this. Desmond Harrington has identified the guy who sells the super ecstasy in Pittsburgh.
Yes.
So Desmond Harrington, through his network of other cops and, drug connections, has identified the guy who's selling the super ecstasy. And so they've cut a deal about the super ecstasy, which is, we're going to let you slide on all of your drug crimes. All you have to do is let us clone your phone, text him for where to drop off, say you want to buy, drop off the money, and then we'll catch him when he goes to pick up the money. And the guy's like, yeah, that's fine. But Chloe Sevigny says to Desmond Harrington, actually, people know you in this part of town. Maybe I go be the one who clones the guy's phone and talks to him. And Desmond Harrington doesn't know what's going on in her life.
Nope.
So he doesn't understand why she might want to have access to phone cloning technology. So he just lets her go and do it. Meanwhile, at his house, James D'Arcy hears someone clunking around downstairs, and he goes and he grabs the shotgun and almost shoots the cop, and the cop almost shoots him because he's freaked out. And the cop is like, why do you have a sawed-off shotgun, a completely illegal weapon? And James D'Arcy doesn't answer. Meanwhile, the killer, walking down the street, sees a couple, and the woman exactly matches his fetish.
Yep.
So he finds out when the movie's letting out, because he is rushing to his next victim. And we'll talk more about that in a second. Then, boom, Chloe goes to see Bruce Davidson, but isn't actually going to see Bruce Davidson. She's going to clone his phone. And
but she does a really good job. She brings him groceries to put in the
care of him.
Fridge, and she'll be back to see him in the morning, see how he's doing.
Yep. And here is where things get really interesting. Because we find out, first off, the guy kidnaps the 2 people using the ruse where he's a blind man and a stun gun, blah, 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 blah. That's all fine. Yeah. That's not the important part. The important part is the conversation that James D'Arcy and Chloe have, which is unbelievably fantastic.
Yes.
Oh, it's such a good scene. This scene is just magic. I loved it so much. I love the scene so much where he's talking about the obsession with death and murder and indicting all of us for watching this TV show. I felt very attacked. Did you feel very attacked?
Yeah, but attacked by the writers and the people who made it.
Yeah. But I mean, they're also attacking themselves for making the show in the first place.
Writing this horrible thing.
They've written this horrible thing, yeah, and they're indicting themselves. But aren't we really...
Yes.
Like, they wouldn't be making this show if we weren't consuming it, is what this scene says. And I'm like, I mean, you're not wrong.
Well, no, except that
people didn't consume it and they didn't get to keep making the show.
That's right.
It's true. So maybe humanity isn't as screwed up as the show suggests because they were able to look away this time. Oh, God, it's funny.
Yes. Because,
it's funny.
No, this is the heaviest.
It is as heavy-handed as it gets.
Yeah, and this whole show is just... even Touching Evil doesn't get this way.
Dark. No, it doesn't.
No.
Even Touching Evil doesn't get this dark. And we can talk about... The thing is, like, I don't think it's fair to compare this to Cracker. Because Cracker is doing something so completely different that it's almost not fair to compare anything to Cracker.
Yes, but I still think that the key to the horror of these 10 episodes is that we have no characters.
No.
Other than the two extra cops, sort of, and the police chief, and they're not key. I mean, they're still pretty tense people.
Yeah.
But we have no mediating issues.
Nope.
It's because it's not just that you've got your serial killer of the week. We've got the man who is falling apart and has already fallen apart because of serial killers and making a mistake. And then we have, Chloe, who's, been sexually abused, and her stepfather has killed her brother, and he is probably doing it again. He may not have killed anyone else. We don't know that.
But he's definitely been molesting kids this whole time. She's never been able to identify a victim.
She has never been able to. Yes, because there have been no more deaths since Dave.
Exactly. Yeah.
And this is what's driving.
No missing kids,
now.
No deaths connected to him. Missing kids, no deaths. Yeah.
Yeah. The stressor of her because he was aided and abetted by his wife.
Mm-hmm. And now that's gone, and he's spiraling. And
so the chances are and she's correct in assuming that the chances are that he is probably prone to killing again if he gets any resistance from anyone.
Whatsoever.
And she's already seen the boy, and you haven't gone back to in the kitchen. She then uses the cloning to clone.
No, I did say that. I said that's why she wanted it, and then she went to clone his phone, and then you started talking about what a good job she did of making it seem like she was there to be supportive. No, we did cover that. It's fine.
Yes.
All right, so here's, and in case this wasn't rough enough, the kicker we get hit with, right, is the shotgun. His sister-in-law called him and said his brother was getting worse.
Yeah,
this Can you get terrible. The gun out of the house?
Yeah, so he did.
And he did. And 2 weeks later, she was dead.
Yeah, it didn't make any difference.
It didn't make any difference, and he never told anyone that he took the gun out of the house. Yeah. Because if he had, admitted to taking the gun out of the house, he would be admitting that he knew it was getting incredibly bad, and people would have thought maybe he should have intervened further. He spent his time thinking, what more could I have done? I knew it was getting this bad. I knew he was going to kill her. I know she was afraid of him. Why didn't I do more? And so he hides the shotgun in shame, so no one will know. So no one will know that he knew more than he
What
than
a
he
horrible
admitted.
story.
I know! Like this, it just keeps hitting us, and it just gets worse and worse and worse.
These people's lives are just a freaking
nightmare
mess,
Oh my God. It's so hard to take.
Yeah. And the funny thing is, not funny, haha, but the reality of it is not funny. The reality of it is that even if he had, first of all, he must have told her at some point she should leave him.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't imagine that he didn't, right?
Mm-hmm.
But, and his wife would have, they would have supported, but she, even if he had gone to the cops and told them, there would have been nothing to be done.
Mm-hmm.
That is the horror of this. Unless she wants to press charges against him, and unless she walks out and goes to a women's shelter, and there were available at that time, they have been since the 80s, right, to go to a battered women's shelter. And somehow or another, it's that syndrome.
Yep.
And, that in between he's fine, but it's just that, at this time it just got out of hand.
Yeah.
And nobody could probably talk her into walking away from him.
Probably. I'm sure James D'Arcy suggested it when he was taking a sawed-off shotgun from the house.
Yes, so he's still feeling guilty about something that he could really probably not
have done anything
kidnap
about.
her?
Well,
she would have gone back to him.
But think of what his life is of messing with people's heads. He spent the rest of his life thinking, if I had just said X, Y, or Z, if only I had said the correct thing when I went to get the shotgun, she would have left with me and she'd still be alive. That is what he has spent. No, of course she wouldn't have.
I know.
That's what's in his head.
She wouldn't have. Yeah, I know. No, I understand that, okay?
Yeah.
This idea that somehow or another you can fix these things. I mean, it's why so many of us with all of us, right?
Yeah.
If we could have only done things, if we could have only found the right button to push.
Yep.
The problem is that other people are autonomous human beings.
Yep.
And there is something called the battered women syndrome for a reason.
Oh, yeah.
We should put trigger warnings on all of our stuff.
We really should. I don't know.
Put it, now that it's on YouTube, because people are watching it on YouTube.
Put a trigger warning at the top, yeah.
Yeah, just stick a trigger warning, just in case.
Just in case, Jesus.
But
all right, so.
Yeah.
So, now James D'Arcy has revealed his deep, dark secret. And Chloe goes into the evidence room, right,
and
to return the cloner
thing.
machine, so no one will know she had it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now they have gotten the text from the killer.
Yep.
And here's how you know the killer is on tilt too, right? He's kidnapped this new couple. And that's how obsessed he was. He's even gotten rid of the body of the previous couple.
Yeah.
Right? So he's on, he's asking for police attention. Right?
Yep.
He's got this recording, because we talked about the first recording. Then before killing the husband, he has a speech he goes through about how I used to let people ask, and he even says it, I used to let people ask questions, but everybody just asked the same question, so I got bored with it.
Yes. So I'm just going to give the answers right now.
Here's all of the answers.
No, I will not tell anyone.
And the thing is, 6 months from now, that would be a recording too.
Yes.
That's the thing. 6 months from now, that's going to be a recording too, because he is so disconnected from his own, he is just going through the motions. And he was excited by this woman for whatever reason, and so he's blowing through all of his patterns to kidnap this new couple.
Because he only kills.
He killed one per city per time. And he not only is killing a second couple this time, he's still got the body of the previous woman there, not cut up yet.
And
when he gets the text
to go out, he's willing to go out.
That's the hook.
Sell more drugs.
But that's the hook, because he thinks to himself, screw it, I gotta drive up to the park to bury her body anyway. Might as well get some money while I'm up there. Because he sends the guy to drop off the money for the drugs to the same park where the body was found and where he was toasting to that woman. It's all the same park.
Yep.
Oh my, like he's on tilt too. Everybody this episode is going down fast. Yeah. And so they've got all the entrances to the park watched, and Chloe and her partner are sitting in a car. And she sees in her cloned phone that Bruce Davidson
brother has picked up.
She's found out that he has come to pick up the child. And she's like, he's going to molest him tonight. I can catch him tonight. And she says, you know how my brother got murdered? She said, no, she doesn't know he's going to kill him tonight. She has no way of knowing that, but she knows that if he can catch him in the act of molesting this boy. And by the way, that's the stakes. Because if anything other than molesting this boy is what's happening when she shows up, there's nothing. Like, there's nothing to charge him with. He's a big brother hanging out with the little brother. Literally, unless they are caught in the act, and I'm not saying she's a monster for letting this kid get molested, because that's not consciously what she's thinking about, but she is planning to catch him in the act.
No, I think if you go back and listen to what she said to Darcy, she assumes that Davidson will repeat not the molestation, but the killing.
Well, it might be both. But the point is...
No. The molestation would happen. Anyway,
well, no, but he definitely wouldn't. He would not intentionally be planning to do the murder, because if he was planning to do the murder, he wouldn't be picking him up at his house and having the mother hand off to him. Because if if the child mysteriously disappeared, everything would go falling down. He's just planning on molesting. She's assuming it's also going to lead to death. But the point is, best case scenario for her in her plans, and this is why she's kind of, a monster in her own way. Best case scenario for her is she shows up as this kid is getting molested and she arrests her father, her stepfather. Yeah, and it's disturbing, but that is her best case scenario for what happens tonight. So she rushes off to do that. And this is why I'm like, maybe she shouldn't be a cop, because if she wasn't this deeply unreliable person, then her partner wouldn't have been on the side of the road alone. When the killer drives up.
When the killer shows up.
That's my point. If they had put her on, if they had taken her off this case, if they had sat her somewhere, he wouldn't have been alone when the killer showed up. And their plan to catch the killer would have worked. She's the one who gets her partner shot, maybe killed, we don't know yet. And she doesn't even accomplish anything because spoiler alert, she raids the basement. It turns out, I'm not saying it was his deal with Kathy Baker or anything but he wasn't molesting kids in his own house.
Nope.
He has another location.
Yes.
He's always had another location. Ever since her brother died, he's had another location. And it never occurred to her.
Yes, well,
and we see him with the boy and the same bouncy ball that was used to gag David. This episode.
And that's how it ends.
Oh, no, how it ends is she rushes back to her partner and finds that he has been shot and is bleeding to death. She gets there just after the killer is left because he got shot in the neck. But he managed to give as good as he got and fire back. Killer didn't get hit, but, it was a full-on gunfight.
Yeah.
Oh.
And so the end is her sitting in the tree. She's called 911 to get the ambulance there. Yeah. So we will find out in the last episode, which neither you nor I watched.
Nope. We don't know what's going to happen at this point.
He could be dead.
He could be dead. He not be. I mean, maybe James Darcy kills Bruce Davison with that shotgun he's got unlicensed shotgun he's conveniently got lying around. Hell, you know what? Chloe Sevigny also knows about the unlicensed shotgun that's just lying around that can't be traced to anybody. Just putting it out there.
I don't know. We don't know what's going to happen next week, but we will discuss it next week.
Yeah. Oh my God, this episode.
It was
incredible.
Terrible.
It was incredible. What they're doing on this show is just it's as hard to watch as anything we've watched for the show. Only Cracker has been harder to watch than this, is my argument.
At times, Cracker, yes.
Yeah. I think Cracker is harder to watch than this show. But I don't think there's anything else that's harder to watch than this show. That of all the stuff we've seen, I don't know that anything else is harder to watch. Because I'm not saying that Touching Evil wasn't bleak. Touching Evil was bleak. It's just, it was so thuddingly handled in many cases.
Yeah,
and they screwed up so much stuff in Touching Evil. I'm talking about the original here.
Yes, no, but the thing is that in the original too, Robson Green is such a charming character.
Well, no, but he's not as charming as he is in... The thing is, Robson Green isn't that charming a character in the original, not like Jeffrey Donovan is in the new one. Because Dave Cregan in the original is so frustrating. You can't get on board with him. You can't get emotionally connected with his problems because he's the worst. And the show doesn't really know what it's doing with him. But Dave Cregan in the new one, you are fully on board. I mean, remember the episode with the woman whose son was kidnapped and he's having sex with the witness and then she gets shot and it's like, what am I watching?
Yes. No, the original Touching Evil, yes. But the loss of Hermione was a problem.
Yes, but that's Wire in the Blood.
Oh, yeah, that's Wire.
That's my point. No,
sorry,
you're conflating. Evil, yes.
Oh, yes. Now I'm conflating Wire in the Blood with Touching Evil.
Yeah, I was talking about Touching Evil. Whereas Wire in the Blood, you're right. He's he is so compelling, right? Yes. That it keeps it even when the show is getting this unflinchingly awful, right? Yes. But what's so horrific about this one and why I put it as being so much harder to watch than so many of the other stuff we've seen is the way the killer isn't even really into it anymore.
Oh, yes. I mean, he just does it because he has to do
autopilot.
It's
them going all the way with the concept of Frank in a way that the original show never got a chance to. Which by the way, Criminal Minds could, if they want to take a look at the show, this show, they have an opportunity to, with Sicarius, get as far into the head of a killer as this episode did just by having the audio tape. Right? Yes, I'm saying that just by having the audio tape and showing that this guy is on tilt, it has done as much in this 2 episodes, almost, as we have come to understand about Sicarius in a season and a third of New Criminal Minds.
Yeah, well, we'll see. I'm not going to say that that's necessarily the way to go. You don't have to go with Frank to Sicarius because he's falling apart in a different way.
He was in a completely different way. No,
so he's beginning. I'm
not saying you're right. I should be clear. I'm not saying they have to do this story with Sicarius, but the fascinating idea of what Sicarius tried to do, of really dig into, because all of the stuff was left to interpretation. It was intended, but the fact that Sicarius is trying to not kill anymore, trying to cure his addiction to killing by having other people do the killing for him.
Okay, but here's the point. The point is that people are not going to listen to this until probably October.
I know. So they've already seen where Sicarius goes. So ironically, they'll already know if they've gone this way. But that's what I find so fascinating about this killer is it's something you've never really seen before, except a little bit of Frank, a serial killer who's not into it anymore, but but has to keep doing it.
Oh, except for, what's his face? Ed. No, not Ed. The big guy.
Oh, yeah, Ed Kemper.
But
he actually stopped. The difference is he actually stopped. Because he's I'm not getting anything out of this anymore, so why am I still doing this? Yeah. I've killed my mother. That's what I wanted to do in the first place.
So, it's done.
It's done. It's over. I'm not going to keep killing people who are demographically similar to my mother to try and recreate the thrill. There would be no point to that.
And there was no thrill.
And there was no thrill. And if I'm not getting anything out of this, why am I still doing it? I'm just going to turn myself in. Yeah. Which is insane. But I mean, you know, it makes him
Thankfully-
officially the most reasonable serial killer in the history of serial killers.
Yes.
Like,
We can
it's
say,
bleak, but
"Thank
that's
you,
exactly
Ed."
what he is. Thank you, Ed, for taking
Stop.
yourself out of the game.
Mhm.
That's something this killer hasn't done, but he's specifically trying to provoke the cops and get the cops' attention and behaving more riskily than
Well,
he's ever
actually, and the
behaved.
thing is that it is the fact that he is doing this is in reaction to reading about himself,
Mm-hmm.
although it's not mentioned himself
Yeah.
in James Darcy's book.
Yep. And
That's
he
what
feels
has
like James
triggered
Darcy
this-
has gotten him wrong. This spiral he's on. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not only is he
so
got
yeah.
it wrong, yes,
Yeah.
but anyway,
amazing
let's-
episode.
yeah.
Amazing 2 episodes.
Yeah, an amazing 2 episodes, as hard as it was to watch. This was the hardest. I thought
No.
some of the earlier stuff was hard to
Oh,
watch.
you thought what they did the
This-
last 2 episodes with the Family Annihilator was the hardest thing to watch?
Oh,
That was tough to watch. This one's even worse.
this is worse.
It's just, and again, just the idea of a serial killer on autopilot is so horrifying.
Yeah.
But that's what he
And-
is.
And
He's
and
just
we
going
can
through the
only say,
motions.
thank heavens he is decompensating.
Yes. All right. Well, we'll see what
To bring
happens
a
next
little-
week.
Yeah,
Jesus,
we'll see
this
what
show.
happens next week.
All right. So that was the second that was the second last episode we're going to do about those who kill
Who
US. Yikes! We are going to be back next week with the final episode and show and review as we marvel at what the Morgan brothers accomplished.
Yes.
Will we get some Bobby Darin music in the final episode? Probably not. This isn't that kind of show.
No, this is not going to give us Goodbye, Charlie.
We're not going to get a Goodbye Charlie, a Beyond the Sea, anything.
No.
All right. So
No.
on that note, thank you for listening. If you have any questions, if you have any comments, if there's any profiling related fiction you'd like us to check out, please drop us a line at profilingcriminalminds@gmail.com. We would love to hear from you. If you are listening on an app or podcatcher, please rate, review, and subscribe. That's how people find out about the show. We'll be back next week for one last look at Those Who Kill. But until then, I'll say that's right. Au revoir.
Oh, we're trying to have a good week.
Show's not making it easy.